Hello, everybody. Hi, Patricia, Joyce, Annette, Lisa, Donna. Oh my goodness. Welcome. So excited to see so many of you. This is our live inflammation education Q&A call. If you're here, go ahead and mute your screen on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. There's a little icon that says mute, so go ahead and mute yourself. And then across the bottom of the screen to the right is a little chat box. And if you could just say hello, tell me where you're coming in from, so I know everyone can hear me well and knows where the chat box is, that would be lovely. So great to see you guys. While you're doing that, I'm gonna pull something up real quick. We are starting in just about a minute and a half. So if you need a glass of water, run to the bathroom really quick before we begin. Grab whatever it is that you need.
Stella's hurt.
Oh, hold on really quick. How?
She keeps on making like this noise like.
Okay, you guys. My son just came in here saying my dog is hurting. So give me 30 seconds. We're gonna start here in about 45 seconds. Just making sure she's okay. I'll be right back. Where is she? Okay, all is good. My son told me we have an Alaskan Malamute, and she is a talker, and she was howling. My son was worried she was hurt, but she was just talking to our neighbor dog. Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited you're here. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. my time, Mountain Standard Time. We're going to give everyone just one more minute to show up, and then we're going to get rocking and rolling. If you have any specific questions, I have a list of questions from everyone who did an amazing job asking, either responding to my email or posting on our thread. But if you have a specific question, please go ahead and in the chat box, you can either type the word inline, which means you are going to be called on. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, which I love interacting with you. Or if you just want to type in your question, that's fine. There is no agenda for today other than to answer your questions. I love doing it this way because so many nuggets of gold come out, and I'm really able to help you guys wherever you are, wherever you need help with. Okay. Just about 30 more seconds and we'll rock and roll. If you guys are just joining, please go ahead and say hello. Okay. We are going to get started. So welcome. You all know that my name is Jenny Carr, but if for some reason you don't know, I am the founder of Jenny Carr Health, international best-selling author of my book, Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. I help people reverse chronic symptoms in their body without feeling overwhelmed and without feeling deprived, right? How you can maintain this way of anti-inflammatory eating, maintain anti-inflammatory living to continue pushing inflammation out of your body. I am looking here and I see a bunch of you that are in my current programs and a bunch of new faces, which is super fun. So welcome. All right. If so far, I don't see any questions on here. So again, if you have any questions, this is what this call is all about. Please type them in the comments box. Either say in line and I'll call your name, or just any question you have, type them in the comments box so that I can answer them. And then I will also go, I've got my phone right here, so I can go to all the amazing questions that were being asked during our time together. If you can look on your screen and make sure it is muted, that would be most fabulous. I'm muting some of you as well, so that hi Joyce. Oh, I muted, then I unmuted you. There you go. If you're not muted and there's a noise that pops up in the background, even if it's unplanned, then all of us get to listen to it. So just make sure you're muted. Again, that's the bottom left icon on your screen, and the chat box is on the bottom right icon of your screen. Okay, so we're gonna start with the people that are here who have got questions, because you are here live. On this person, plus VRVFMKXAO, I'm not sure what your name is here, but it says, I see conflicting information about eating fermented foods when on a Candida diet. Can you clarify what the issues about fermentation are that many may interact with Candida? This is such a good question. So you guys, in terms of inflammation, right, typically fermented foods are really good for us. Probiotics, fermented vegetables, even kombuchas, depending on if there's been added sugar or not, which a lot of them do have. But when you have a fungus, Candida is one of many types of fungus, in your body, then adding fermentation actually gives the Candida, the fungus, something to eat. So you're actually feeding the Candida. So when you do have Candida, you do not want to eat a fermented diet. You actually want to stay away from that while you have Candida. And as soon as you're done completing getting rid of Candida, which typically requires 2 aspects depending on the severity. Aspect number 1 is diet, which is very important. Candida loves inflammatory foods. It loves toxins and chemicals. It loves sugars. It loves processed foods. So it's really important to take those out. That's kind of tier 1 of eating, taking out those top 6 inflammatory foods. But the next tier of eating is that we take out all of our concentrated sugars. So if you've read my book, if you did the 5-day process challenge with us, you know that I talk about sugar swaps, swapping out processed sugar for sugars that don't inflame, such as raw honey, pure maple syrup, unrefined coconut sugar, or sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit. The sweeteners, stevia and monk fruit, are not sugars. They're sweeteners that are naturally derived. Those will not add to Candida. So if you really need a sweet tooth, which oftentimes when you're detoxing from Candida, the cravings can get pretty intense. So having monk fruit or a liquid stevia, I like the brand Sweetly for liquid stevia, and our good friend Nancy Clavins, who's here, researched Julian's Bakery, I believe, makes a monk fruit that's pure monk fruit, which is really difficult to come across. You can Google that online. Those are good to give yourself some sort of sweetener, sweet taste, but you want to stay away from the raw honey, the maple syrup, the unrefined coconut sugar, all concentrated sugars. You actually want to stay away from when you're doing the Candida diet, when you're killing off the Candida. Same thing with dates, bananas, pineapples, like any of the fruits that are really high in sugar. If you're gonna have fruit, you want to have fruit that's low on the glycemic index, and those would be berries, pears, and green apples. Okay. So getting lots of clean, healthy protein is very important so that you can stabilize your blood sugar levels and help with the cravings, as well as drinking loads and loads of water. Those of you who have worked with me before did the 5-day processed sugar swap challenge, you know we shoot for a gallon of water if you've got chronic inflammation, and candida certainly is inflammation. Yes, I see some of you drinking your water now, so cheers. And then the other kind of separate component to getting rid of candida, depending on the severity, sometimes you need a really high quality supplement. So finding a good naturopathic doctor, finding someone who is really trained in that and can determine. I love working with people who use quantum neurology as a method to determine which supplements your body needs. And it's important to have high quality supplements. I have been on this kind of accidental learning journey the last few years about supplements and how varied they are, even when they appear to be high quality supplements. There's a lot of fillers that go in them. There's a lot you have to be aware of.
Oh, cool.
Whoever just said, oh, cool, can you please mute yourself? And if you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself. Just check, please. Thank you. I think that's Allison. If you could mute yourself, please.
No.
I got her. Okay. Always I wish I knew how to mute everyone. So there's someone that is not muted, and we're hearing a lot of feedback from you. If you guys can all look at your screen and mute yourself. Oh, there, I found her. Okay, Michelle. Okay, sorry about that. So just making sure you have a high quality supplement that goes along with getting rid of the candida will allow for you to kill it off as quickly as possible. Know that you will be detoxing. You'll probably experience detox symptoms. And there's more that you can do to kind of upregulate your detox pathways, which we kind of go deeper into during our Have It All online group coaching program. But that alone, those tips that I just shared with you, will really, really help. So great question. Nancy Clavin says, I noticed that the recent meal plan posted by Lisa Barnett has a lot of nightshades. So those of you in Maintaining Freedom or Have It All group coaching program, I just handed out a meal plan, a 3-month meal plan to everyone. And she says, can you comment on how we should think about these inflammatory foods? Yes, great question. So nightshades are known to be inflammatory, as are a lot of different types of foods, right? We've got grains, we've got the top 6 inflammatory foods, soy. There's so many different inflammatory foods, which is why I wrote my book, Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. If you focus on processed sugar, you can by default remove so many of the top 6 inflammatory foods. And once you nail those top 6 inflammatory foods, then there's typically what we call minor players and nuanced foods that may respond to your individual body in an inflammatory fashion. But we don't know if that's happening until we've removed those top 6 inflammatory foods for 2 reasons. Number one, very often your body, not very often, our bodies are always regenerating or degenerating. And so as you're removing those top 6 inflammatory foods, drinking water, living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, right? Your cells begin to regenerate, and foods that maybe you couldn't do well with before, nightshades, oranges, who knows, we've all have different foods that our body may or may not respond well to. Your body will often regenerate, and you can experience and eat foods that you couldn't before. So if anyone's ever done a food sensitivity test in the past, know that that was a moment, that was a snapshot of what your body looked like in that moment, what the foods that your body was exposed to and how it was reacting. Based off of how you have supported your body and the healing process it's undergone, or the degenerative process it's undergone since that food sensitivities test, what your body likes in terms of food and dislikes in terms of food and how it reacts to those is probably very different now. So coming back to this question, Nancy, about nightshades, what I find for many people, unless they have an autoimmune disease, is that nightshades are fine as long as you've removed those top 6 inflammatory foods. And even if you have an autoimmune, like I had an autoimmune for many, many years, and I was able to eat a lot of those nightshades, and now I eat all of the nightshades. So it's one of those individualized things. You have to listen to your body, really take note of what you're eating, make sure all of the other top 6 inflammatory foods are clean, and see what's responding. So for you, Nancy, because I know you and I know kind of where you're at in this process, you eat really clean. I would, if there's nightshades you haven't been eating, I would introduce one at a time and see how your body responds. Great question. Michelle says coconut aminos like Bragg or Bragg's Organic Coconut Aminos is a great one for you. Oh, is available at most stores in the Asian section of the grocery store. She was talking to Carrie. Oh, thank you. Carrie, I didn't see your question. Yeah, where can you get coconut aminos? Yeah, pretty most grocery stores carry them. Certainly health food grocery stores, Whole Grocer, Lucky's. You can get them, I know in the town I live in Jackson Hole, you can get them at Smith's, Albertsons, but also Thrive Market online and Amazon Prime are great resources to get many of these foods if you don't have access to them in your grocery store. And the Bragg's Coconut Aminos is, for those who don't know, it's kind of like a swap for a soy sauce or a teriyaki sauce, but it's very healthy for you, and it's an amazing swap. Patricia says, how do you know if you have Candida? What are the symptoms? The only way to be absolutely certain that you have Candida is probably to be tested. You can do a test through a functional medicine doctor, a naturopathic doctor, but often it's bloating, right? A lot of digestive kind of irritability. Often Candida shows up in the skin, like if you're having chronic skin issues. Those are fatigue is a big piece of Candida. Sometimes you're feeling detoxy because the Candida is dying off. So those are all different signs for anyone, because I know I tend to attract people who have parasites or Lyme, even if they haven't figured it out yet, because that is my story, that I survived a near-death experience due to chronic Lyme and parasites, and have healed so much from it. And so if you have parasites, or if you have Lyme, parasites, Lyme, viruses, and fungus, those 4 things almost always travel together. So if you know you have Lyme or parasites, you probably have at least a bacteria. A virus is a bacteria. So if you have parasites, you probably have a bacteria, some sort of chronic virus, and fungus. Candida is a fungus. It's very commonly found with those 4. Those 4 pathogens create kind of an ecosystem and a symbiotic relationship where they help one another survive. But you can certainly have Candida without having all of those other things. It's relatively common. And so you would want to, Patricia, you'd want to talk to a functional medicine doctor, find someone who does quantum neurology, any sort of practitioner like that. Okay, Carrie says, if eating a clean diet, are supplements necessary? Carrie, it depends what health condition you have. So will you answer that? If you have a clean diet and you feel great, then no, I don't think supplements are necessary, with the exception of one thing. Our soil generally across the globe has been really, what is the right word? It's kind of been sucked dry of the minerals that it absorbs. So for example, the soil, the vegetables and the fruit and the produce, the plants that grow out of the soil, the produce, the plants typically suck in the vitamins and the minerals from the soil. And that's part of what gives them their nutrition. Because the soil is so depleted now compared to what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, there's some research, and don't quote me because this is not the exact number, but it's something like one bunch of kale or one head of broccoli, you have to eat 8 bunches of kale now to get the same vitamins and minerals that you would have gotten from one bunch of kale 20 years ago. Does that make sense? So the vitamins and minerals are so depleted, and what we've found consistently across research in these modern times, and what I've found consistently talking to so many different practitioners, naturopathic doctors, MD doctors, like everyone, I think, commonly agrees on this, that we tend to be depleted of minerals, and specifically trace minerals. So if you eat a really clean diet and you drink water and you feel great, there's not like a, you're not trying to get rid of candida or parasites or some sort of neurotoxin or some sort of pathogen, right? Then I would say you really don't need to take other supplements, except trace minerals would be very supportive for just about everyone on this planet right now. So Carrie, let me know if that answered your question. And then I'm going to wait. I don't see any other questions coming up right now from everyone live. So I'm going to go on to our Facebook and just start answering the questions there. So Laura McDowell says, I know we do a gallon of water per day to get started. So those of you who, again, are in my program or did the 5-day processed sugar swap challenge, you know that if there's chronic inflammation in your body, then we need to drink a gallon of water as an adult, which is 128 ounces, 4 quarts. I love seeing everyone's water bottle as we're sitting here together. It makes me very happy. You need to drink a gallon of water to flush the toxins out of your body and to upregulate the detox pathways. So what that means is that you're actually supporting the methylation process in your liver. Okay? The methylation process is what allows your body to properly detox toxins. We've all learned, Miss Addie, would you mind muting your...
Oh, sorry, I'm getting off too.
Oh, sorry. Good to see you.
I didn't even know I was on.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
The liver needs water to support the glutathione process, the methylation process. And it's different than what we do to just stay hydrated. So a lot of us think that's so much water, that most doctors will tell you that if you want to stay hydrated, you need to drink an ounce of water for every half pound of your body. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you're drinking 50 ounces of water. That's great if you need to stay hydrated. But we are talking about detoxifying and pushing inflammation out of your body, which is different, okay? How do you know if there's chronic inflammation in your body? If you're experiencing a chronic symptom of any sort, it could be a diagnosed chronic health condition, a diagnosed chronic disease. It could be that you just feel tired all the time, you feel bloated, that you have a difficulty time losing weight, and it's been like that for a long time, that you have skin conditions of any sort, chronic sinus infections, any sort of chronic health symptom. The root of chronic health symptoms is chronic inflammation. That's how you know if you need to drink a gallon of water. Now, the question is, do we keep doing it? That's what this person's asking. And the answer is yes, if you feel good, right? Now, initially, you're going to push a ton of inflammation out of the body, and it's extra important at that time when you're detoxing to flood the body and push as much inflammation out. If you get to a point where you feel so amazing and for some reason your body is just telling you this amount of water is not good, not because it's inconvenient, but because your body is saying, I'm good, I don't need as much. And this is especially particular for smaller, petite adults. Like if you weigh between 100 and 120 pounds, then this rule would probably apply to you even more. That drinking 3/4 of a gallon may be appropriate. Even if you're eating a really clean diet, you guys, we get inflammation from many other sources other than just diet. So stress, not enough movement, not enough sleep, environmental toxins, as well as diet. Those are the top 5 things that cause chronic inflammation in our body. So we may be eating really clean and we may be drinking a lot of water and feeling great, right? But we're feeling great because we're eating clean and drinking water. And the thing that I see happen to so many people time and time again is that when we start to feel good, We stop doing the things that made us feel so good. We're like, ooh, I'm good now. I don't need to do those. But we have to remember that we feel good because we took action to do the things that support our body. Why would we suddenly stop? Unless, again, your body's telling you, I'm absolutely maxed out, I need less water, listen to it, but not because it's inconvenient. Know that that water that you're drinking, the gallon of water, is supporting your body's ability to process toxins from stress, environmental toxins, not getting enough rest, even things like the computer, the EMFs. There's so many things that cause inflammation in our body. And so drinking that water really supports you. Great question. Allison says, looking for a few store-bought snacks. What are the best? Allison, will you please type in what you like to eat? Because there's so many that I'll give you some specific swaps based off of what you like. Diana says, does grain cause belly bloating? It depends who you are. If you have leaky gut, absolutely. If you have leaky gut, any sort of autoimmune condition, I highly, highly recommend staying away from all grains. If you just have a bit of inflammation due to stress, due to, a not as healthy diet, and typically getting to the bottom of this requires working with someone, whether it's me or someone else, to figure out where is this inflammation coming from. But maybe if there is, if you just have this inflammation due to not so great diet, right, then sometimes eating grains totally works. I know it does for me on occasion. I don't eat grains all the time. I eat them maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, and I don't eat a lot of them. What you need to know about grains is that many of them are highly genetically modified, have been highly processed, and those don't work well for anyone. Remember, those of you who've read my book or did the 5-day processed sugar swap challenge know that GMOs is one of the top 6 inflammatory foods. And many, many grains are genetically modified, especially wheat. And so if you're going to eat a grain, what's important is that, number one, your body responds well to them. If you have autoimmune or leaky gut, your body's not going to respond well to them. Number two, if you're like, oh yeah, I think I can handle them fine, then do ancient sprouted grains. Ancient sprouted grains are the type of grains our ancestors ate a very long time ago, and that actually have a lot of nutritional density and benefit to us. So if you're buying a bread, for example, the only bread that I really buy at the grocery store is called Ezekiel, Ezekiel. It's kind of a funny word. I'll type it out in the chats here. Ezekiel bread. And the reason I like it is a couple things. Number one, they don't have any inflammatory oils or processed sugar, which is extremely rare in a gluten-free bread or healthy bread. And number two, they have both a gluten-free option as well as an ancient sprouted grain option. I actually like the ingredients for the ancient sprouted grains for my kids. So I make like our French toast using coconut milk and eggs with the ancient sprouted grain bread. I know someone on the thread that I'm answering questions for in the Facebook group asked about a bread that you can buy at the grocery store that's not homemade. So Ezekiel bread is the bread that I recommend for that. Great question. So Allison, hopefully you heard me. If you want to type in a few of the types of snacks you enjoy, or if anyone else has snacks they enjoy they want swaps for without processed sugar, wheat, cow dairy, GMOs, inflammatory oils, let me know. Yeah, Christy says my husband's doctor, I think, was concerned that he was losing his trace minerals by drinking the gallon of water. Is there something we should take to replenish us? Absolutely. It is definitely possible that you can lose some of your trace minerals by drinking a gallon of water, but the benefits that you receive to push inflammation out of your body far outweigh losing the small amount of trace minerals you may lose. So sometimes our mind will do tricks on us and they'll be like, oh, because there's some concern, I'm not going to drink the water. You want to really raise your awareness and catch what is your brain telling you about drinking water or eating sugar or whatever it may be, right? In this case, drinking water. And then also say, like, if there's a concern, how can I fix it? So a really easy way to replenish your body with trace minerals, which I recommend everyone doing this because we're all low on trace minerals anyways. You can buy some liquid minerals at your health food store. That's just little liquid droppers and you put it into your water. It's amazing. And you can get great trace minerals that way. You don't need a lot of them and it will make a good benefit for anybody really. Okay, let's see here. What other questions do we have? I'm just scrolling through here. Oh, Peggy says, I've not been able to find a swap for salad dressing that I like. Any suggestions? And she said she particularly likes ranch. Primal Kitchen, Terry, thank you for writing that actually. Primal Kitchen is what I recommend. I will type that in here as well. You can Google it. You can find it at many, many grocery stores. You can certainly get it at Thrive Market Online, Amazon Prime. Oh, and she says she actually doesn't care for it. That's funny. But that's the first person actually I've heard this, and she doesn't care for the flavor. I'd recommend Peggy trying some of their different brands. They have so many, different flavors. They have so many different flavors. And the reason I love Primal Kitchen is because it's paleo. It's made with a clean, typically avocado oil. There's no processed sugars, and there's from Caesar, honey, mustard, ranch, there's like a vinaigrette. There's so many, I think a ginger sauce. Like I think they have 20 flavors. Like they have so many flavors. So I would check those out. And then I've never actually been a big condiments kind of gal. So I'm kind of the worst person to ask this question in terms of my own personal opinion. But I did find these oils and vinegars from a place called Genesis Kitchen. Genesis, I'm typing it in the chat box, genesis-kitchen.com. And actually, I know the owners of this company. It's out of a little town called Whitefish, Montana. They sell olive oils that are infused olive oils that are extremely high polyphenol content. Polyphenols are actually what give us the anti-inflammatory properties found in olive oil. So when they're really high polyphenol content, you can cook with them at a hotter heat, but they'll actually also help to melt inflammation stuck inside your body away. They have infused olive oils like blood orange olive oil, and they have basil, and they have lemon, and they have so many incredible olive oils, both savory, spicy, sweet, and then these vinegars that taste amazing. And honestly, I will tell you, they turn a salad into dessert. These have transformed my cooking. I even put them in smoothies. I bake with them. If you've ever made my lemon bars, you can make them with coconut oil, but also you can make them with the infused lemon oil. That's so good. They have like a black cherry vinegar, a blueberry vinegar. One of my favorite combos is the blood orange olive oil with the Cara white vanilla vinegar mixed together. It tastes like a creamsicle. Your salad tastes like creamsicle. There's no processed sugar. They're very clean. So that's how I do my salad dressings, but you could definitely look into both of those. All right, moving on to the next one. And if anyone has any questions, be sure to just chat them. If anyone just joined, post them in the chat section here or say in line, and feel free to unmute yourself and ask me in person. I love talking to you guys. Carol Ludgate says, what are your thoughts on fermented foods, especially kombucha? I know it's made with sugar, but supposedly the sugar goes to feed the live culture. Yeah, so this is not about candida, right? This is not about if you have candida. This is just generally speaking. what do I think about kombucha? And I think kombucha is really great as long as there's no added sugar to it. So the way kombucha is made is actually there's processed sugar that is added to the seeds, and that creates the fermentation process. During the fermentation process, something happens on a molecular level and actually stops the body from creating an inflammatory response when you eat or drink the kombucha. It's very fascinating to me. And so there's brands like Synergy, Synergy. That's the kombucha that I buy. You have to be careful because even a brand varies flavor to flavor. So most of Synergy's brands do not have any added juice concentrate or any added processed sugar after the fermentation process, but a few of the flavors do. Many of the brands, other brands, Kavita, there's so many different brands for kombucha, they add processed sugar after the fermentation process, and that causes an inflammatory response. So again, in the world of inflammation, there's so many little nuances, you guys, that you have to be aware of. We can think we're doing something really great for our body by drinking the kombucha, and ultimately what's happening is we're putting processed sugar in us because we don't realize that the kombucha has that processed sugar. So always be a renegade researcher, read the ingredients label, and in case anyone is not familiar, make sure you know that juice concentrate is one of the 50+ names of processed sugar. So you want to make sure you stay away from juice concentrate. And juice concentrate is very sneaky and found in many of those. Great question. Okay, Allison, finally got back here. Looking for things to take in my purse when I go in and out of the doctor appointments with my husband. Okay, so again, I'm not totally sure what you love to eat, but I'm just gonna throw out a few things. Rewind bars. If you join my Have It All online group coaching program, you get a free box of those. You can only buy them online, but I love them because not only are they free of the top 6 inflammatory foods, but they're full of superfoods. So those are a really great option. RX bars, I'll type that in here as well. RX bars are another that are free of the top 6 inflammatory foods, and they have egg whites in them that give a good amount of protein. So it's a nice way to get protein. A lot of protein bars have tons of fillers, tons of sugar, tons of inflammatory foods and preservatives. So RX bars are nice in that regard. And I like to keep things super simple. Like I love to do sliced apple. You can buy these little packages of like little pouch of almond butter that's just straight up almond butter, and slice apple, and then you can just put some almond butter on the apple while you're waiting. And I could give you so many more specific examples, Allison, if I knew like exactly what type of foods you typically bring or that you like. That's kind of my zone of genius, is giving these swaps. But just off the cuff, thinking maybe bars are what you typically bring, Rewind bars or RX bars are great. Good questions, you guys. Okay. Okay. Carol Ludgate says, on the gallon of water, have you had any followers with incontinent issues? I tried doing it for about 30 days and was successful, but I have a weak bladder and was running to the bathroom really often and fast. Yes. Then I got a UTI, so I stopped drinking so much. After reading up on drinking water, I think a gallon is too much for me and will overtax my bladder. Is there a lesser amount to aim for? Love your thoughts on this. Thank you, Carol, for a great question. Yeah, incontinence definitely makes this a little bit trickier in terms of drinking that gallon of water. What I will say is congratulations on being successful for a month. So if you were successful for a month, that means that probably a lot of things were working well for you, right? There was a bit more inconvenience and maybe urgency to get to the bathroom. Not fun for any of us. And that will happen the first couple of weeks, maybe even month, depending on how clean your diet is, because as the water is pushing down in your body, it's like a dried up riverbed, and the water's flooding the riverbed, pushing the boulders and the rocks and the pebbles that are all symbolic of stuck inflammation in your body. If you're flooding the body with water, flooding the riverbed with water, creating a flash flood, it's pushing all that inflammation out. And these are concentrated toxins that were stuck inside your body. They're going into your bladder. And if you can imagine your bladder is like a pond sitting in concentrated toxins and inflammation. So what happens, whether you have incontinence or not, the bladder sends a signal to the brain saying like red alarms go off, alert, alert, alert. And you have to eliminate really, really quickly because your bladder doesn't want to sit in a pool of concentrated toxins, right? So that happens to all of us. Typically, as you keep pushing the inflammation out and there's less and less of that stuck chronic concentrated inflammation, that will improve. Now, if you have incontinence, I imagine it just makes that situation even more trickier. And so the question really becomes is what is the highest priority? And there's not a right or wrong answer. You have to really get honest with yourself and become very non-judgmental with yourself. Like, is drinking that water, if you drank it for a month, if you know, you will know if it was helping your body. Did your symptoms improve? Did your energy improve? Did symptoms begin to melt away? If the answer is yes, then was it worth having to run to the bathroom quickly or kind of arranging your schedule? I actually very consciously arrange my schedule when I drink my water, or I should say consciously drink my water based off of my schedule. So rather than just drinking it here and there throughout the day, I think, okay, I've got, the next 3 hours I have coaching calls. So an hour ago, I would be chugging a bunch of water so I could go to the bathroom before my 3 hours of coaching calls. And then I'm just going to sip on some water for the next 3 hours. And as soon as I'm done with my coaching calls, I'm going to chug again where I know I'm near a bathroom and I have availability. So really being, what is the word? Very kind of proactive and almost strategizing when you're going to drink your water is really important. If you found though that it didn't help you that much, then by all means go down and drink a little bit less water. It's hard for me to say without working with you and knowing more of your case, but that is what I recommend. So I hope that helps. Okay, let's see here. Oh, someone emailed me last night sharing how the her husband has a condition, and I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted right now. Who is not muted? If you're not muted, please mute yourself. Everyone or her husband has a condition, a blood condition, and is wanting to know. He has an autoimmune condition and it's causing a blood condition. There's a lot of complications. And she's wanting to know, can we actually heal our blood? And does inflammation impact the quality of our blood, right? And like, how do those interrelate? So here's what's really fascinating. Inflammation goes to the areas in our body that we are most susceptible to. So for some of us, that's a genetic predisposition. You may know, okay, so for example, you may have heard that certain conditions are passed down from one generation to the next. If your mom or your grandma has a certain type of cancer, you have a higher risk of getting that cancer, for example. There's lots of different conditions this could pertain to, right? That's true, because you have a genetic predisposition. Now, what activates that genetic predisposition is inflammation. If you have chronic inflammation, if there's more inflammation in your body than what it can process, because our bodies are meant to process some levels of toxins and inflammation. But in our modern day society, since our food has changed so much, we're more stressed than we've ever been. We have less rest than we've ever had. We are on the go. We're often exercising or moving our body so much less. We're not getting enough water. All of these things that are crucial to eliminating the inflammation and living an anti-inflammatory life are being taxed in our modern day society. And so if inflammation compounds, which it tends to do very quickly in today's society, then it goes to those areas you're most susceptible to, which could be the genetic predisposition, which is very likely this person with kind of this blood disorder, but it could also be overuse. If you have an autoimmune, it goes to that. You'll notice if you have a chronic symptom, like maybe you get, you have a bloating condition, right? Where you get bloating or painful digestion. That's something that keeps coming up over and over. It's not like, oh, I was bloated this one time and then the next week I got a headache and then the next week my knee hurt. Like you consistently see that there's a digestive issue going on. That's because the inflammation is going to that area. How does this work with regenerating the blood cells? Oh, I love this. Okay. Our cellular health is the foundation of an overall healthy body. If you ask any doctor, no matter if they're functional, MD, alternative, whatever, they're all going to agree with you on this statement. If we have healthy blood cells, we are going to embody a healthy body. And when I refer to healthy blood cells, I'm typically talking about live blood analysis where you can actually see the shape of the red blood cell. You can see if it's absorbing vitamins, if it's absorbing minerals. There's a lot that you can get out of looking at a live blood analysis. Now, our red blood cells are meant to be round and plump like this. And what they do is they travel around our body, absorbing vitamins, minerals, and water, getting hydrated. That's what allows them to be round and plump, functioning ideally, functioning properly. On average, every 120 days, those red blood cells travel through the body and then go through our spleen. Our spleen is like an X-ray machine. When the red blood cell goes to the spleen takes an X-ray of that red blood cell and duplicates a new one that acts, looks, and functions just like the one that had come into the X-ray machine. So here's where it gets tricky. If our red blood cells are traveling through our body during that 120-day time period on average, if there's inflammation coming into the body, if there's chronic toxins coming into the body, then the toxins and inflammation make their way to the center of the red blood cell and actually begin to create a deformation in the red blood cell. As the red blood cells become deformed, sometimes they also attach to one another. All of this makes it very difficult for that red blood cell to absorb vitamins, minerals, and water to stay hydrated, which means that they become even more and more deformed. They degenerate every single day, more and more and more as they're going through this process, because all of these toxins are flooding in. Because we have chronic inflammation in the body, it's flooding in, and it's making the red blood cell unable to function as it degenerates throughout this entire process. It goes through the spleen, through the X-ray machine, and the spleen replicates that exact red blood cell, which is now deformed, unable to absorb vitamins, minerals, water. And this is the degeneration process of aging itself. Those red blood cells are what make up the tissues in our body, the organs in our body, the endocrine glands, everything. If they're not functioning properly, we cannot heal. We cannot regenerate. But there's really good news. If these red blood cells have toxins and inflammation that's causing them to degenerate, we can begin to live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, to eat an anti-inflammatory diet by doing all the things that I teach in my Have It All online group coaching program. And some of you have touched the tip of the iceberg in the 5-day processed sugar swap challenge, right? And over time, the toxins and the inflammation are leaving the red blood cell, allowing the red blood cell to once again absorb the vitamins, nutrients, and water. And when it goes to the spleen, it replicates this regenerated red blood cell. As it moves through the process and continues to regenerate, you actually grow younger. And this is the regeneration or healing process from a cellular level that takes place when you follow these steps of anti-inflammatory living and eating. So you guys, it's not an overnight thing, right? On average, it takes 120 days for the red blood cell to be replicated. And even in that time, that doesn't mean that it's fully healed. What's amazing is that so many of you who have done the challenge or worked with me, you know how quickly you can see results through this way of eating and living. But to do the long-term healing, to adopt this as a way of living so that you do grow young, it takes commitment. It takes patience. And that is why learning how to maintain this way of eating without feeling overwhelmed and deprived is so important, because it is in the long haul that we see the true test of healing take place. I get passionate about this in case you couldn't tell. I just think it's a very awesome topic. Okay, Denise Cruz says, I have severe pain and inflammation in my bones and joints. It affects my knees. I've tried physical therapy to no avail. My doctor thinks it's caused from the hormone blocker that I have to take for post-breast cancer. Yes, my question is, can anti-inflammatory eating help reduce this medication's side effect, induce pain? First of all, sweets, I'm sending you so much love. It sounds like you've been through a lot, and I really pride you for continuing to show up, to heal, to not giving up, and to know that there's more healing and regeneration to come for you. So congratulations. All right, so here's what's happening. This is where it gets a little bit tricky with medication. Some medication saves our lives, right? There is a real time and a place for modern day treatments, modern day medication, and the side effect though of medication, I have yet to know any medication, even as subtle as a Tylenol or Advil, that doesn't have significant implications on our overall body's health in terms of a systemic, holistic approach, right? Even Tylenol and Advil is very harsh on the liver and causes inflammation in the liver. So it may go and help with a chronic swelling, or acute swelling or acute inflammation in our knee or something, but it causes inflammation in the liver. So I just found out that a medication that was given to my son, he's 9, he's almost 10. It was given to him when he was a year and a half. Multiple times. He had severe respiratory issues. It's called a fluoroquinolone or something like that. It's actually a very common antibiotic, and there are now massive lawsuits. There's major warnings on this drug because it goes in and destroys people's immune system. It destroys their nervous system and their gut. And it's actually the reason he ended up with a sensory condition years ago. I'm just figuring this out now. And when we look at his body, it's in his brain, it's in his nervous system, it's in his gut, it's in his immune system. So I'm working with an alternative practitioner to help remove this. It is amazing. At the moment, my son almost died twice, collapsed in front of me once, stopped breathing. The other time, thankfully, we were in the hospital. He stopped breathing. They had ICU, or it was like code blue when we went up to ICU. It was very scary, right? So in that moment, it's possible that antibiotic saved his life, but now we're dealing with severe repercussions from this medication. So there's always this you have to always kind of play out the pros and the cons. Now, that inflammation, that antibiotic is causing loads of inflammation in my son's body. It was causing him to have a chronic sensory condition that was quite severe. So severe that if a drop of water landed on his shirt when he was 1.5, he would scream and scream and he'd say, "Mom, it hurts." And he'd cry and he'd try and take his shirt off. He couldn't put multiple layers of clothes on to go outside at recess in the wintertime because it hurt. He couldn't get socks on to go skiing was out of the question. He struggled with his attention with ADD. He really struggled with his amygdala, the center of his brain that actually has a direct impact on how we process our emotions, because it was flooded with neurotoxins from this drug, from this medication. I changed his diet, Denise, and so many of his symptoms melted away. Within 2 months of changing his diet and being consistent, 85% of his sensory condition went away. 85%. Pretty amazing. This little boy was out playing recess again. He was making friends again. He was skiing. He was doing these things, and it still impacted him, but not near as severe. So when you say, can you change your diet and significantly see an improvement in the symptoms you're experiencing due to the inflammation in your body from this medication? Absolutely. Not just you, everyone. Something I'm very passionate about. Okay, Nancy Clavin says, how do we test whether we have healthy red blood cells or not? I would suggest going to a naturopathic doctor that's specifically trained to do live blood analysis. Live blood analysis. You want someone who can, and I know people, if anyone lives in the Western region, I have some great practitioners I know, but find a practitioner that can do live blood analysis and really knows how to read it and tell if your red blood cells are healthy. It can give immense amount of information. Yeah, Patricia says, I didn't know Tylenol causes liver inflammation. Yeah, it's really hard on the liver to detoxify. You guys remember the liver is responsible for, the liver and kidneys are responsible for detoxing basically everything out of our body, inflammation, toxins. They are overloaded. And so that any sort of medication, even my son's antibiotics, like those have to be processed through the liver. So Patricia says, what is the best pain reliever to take that isn't harsh on the body? It depends on how much pain you're in, and this becomes very personal, right? So if you need Tylenol or Advil or something because you're in so much pain, your whole body is tense and you can't, like there are times I've taken that because I just absolutely need it to get through. And the amount of stress that it's causing the body to be in that amount of pain actually is more detrimental than taking the Tylenol or Advil itself. So I'm not saying don't ever take it, but if you have chronic pain, I like to look at alternative treatments. So there's CBD oil that has no of the THC or none of the stuff that can get you high. It's just totally, totally pure. That has really amazing anti-pain components. I've actually used it after I had surgery on my mouth, and it was incredible. And then there's also some like essential oils that can be really beneficial depending on where you're in pain and what you have the pain for. Dawn says, what brand do you recommend for trace minerals? How many ounces? It just depends on how much you weigh. I would go to like a health food store and just ask someone that works in the supplement section for their highest quality trace minerals. I use a company called Purium. They have a trace minerals, but there's a lot of great different brands that you can buy. I would just go and ask. Okay, I only have 4 more minutes. I'm going to see if I can get through these questions here that were posted in the Facebook group. From Christina, she says, where's a good place to find additional anti-inflammatory recipes? I'm not sure if you've seen my book, but if you haven't, you can get a free copy at www.jenny-carr.com. You can get a free ebook copy there. You can also buy it at all major and independently owned bookstores. Loads of incredible anti-inflammatory recipes. When you join, or if you join my online group coaching program, then you also get meal plans. And then if you search the Facebook group, I actually did a live of some of my favorite anti-inflammatory cookbooks. So if you search in the book, if you search in the search box in our Freedom from Inflammation group, videos or cookbooks, you'll see a live I did, and I actually sent this out via email too, of all these amazing cookbooks. Is stevia a good sugar replacement? Absolutely. I prefer the liquid and make sure there's no added fillers. So Sweet Leaf is a great brand. Are green smoothies with organic frozen fruit a good snack option? Definitely. I always recommend having a clean protein with that to stabilize blood sugar levels. Adrian says, what are the best seasonings to use that don't cause inflammation? I need something to flavor in my veggies and chicken. Yeah, I love that you asked this question because seasonings can actually have processed sugar in them. You have to be such a renegade researcher and read the ingredients of everything. But if you are looking for good seasonings, turmeric, curcumin, ginger, garlic, cayenne, all of those that actually have really strong anti-inflammatory properties that will help to push out even more inflammation. So those are probably what I recommend the most. Janet says, is there a sausage that's good to eat? There's quite a few new brands now, and I'm having a difficult time remembering the name. I'll see if I can remember and post them in the Facebook group. But you do want to be really aware, sausage, bacon, these meats, deli meats, all of those almost always have processed sugar unless you read them and they specifically say they don't, very often. Like I just, for the first time, went grocery shopping and looked at sausages for the first time in quite a while. And I was surprised to see that there are some brands starting to show up without processed sugar, but very often sausage has processed sugar. Noel asked about sandwich bread. So Ezekiel is what I recommend. Oh, good. Denise, we answered your question. Okay, the last one, Dory says, I know the illnesses, sugars, and processed foods can bring into our body. At one time in my life, I stayed away from all processed sugars and foods. I drank fresh carrot, beet, celery, apple juice every day and enjoyed wonderful whole life giving foods for a half a year. That was 13 years ago. I want to get back on board with the anti-inflammatory diet and hoping joining this group will help me. Just need to bite the bullet. She said she's had a lot of skin problems. Yeah, she says she's had a lot of skin problems and she's had this for over 3 years. She's thankful this rash is only on her right hand, but she better get back on track. Okay, yeah, so again, any sort of chronic symptom, that's just one example. If it's eczema, chronic rashes, psoriasis, rosacea, those are just one example of chronic inflammation that shows up in the body. And you guys, I want to emphasize this again. This is not a diet. We want to learn how to maintain this way of eating because it is in maintaining this way of eating that we get off the yo-yo crazy mindset of like, oh, I'm feeling good. I'm not. I'm depressed. I'm feeling good. Yay. Oh, I'm not. I'm never going to heal. Like we go through these stories and we tell ourselves all these thoughts that really cause a lot of stress in our mind about our health and the way that we're feeling. And then we also want to get off the yo-yo dieting of, okay, I'm doing this challenge or I'm doing this cleanse or I'm doing this group and now I'm going back to my old ways. And it's this back and forth, which can cause so much stress. So instead, we want to learn how to adopt this way of eating so that you feel comforted. You don't feel deprived. You don't feel overwhelmed. It's easy. It's joyful. It's fun. It's tasty. I have been really walking and talking, following this way of eating for over 8 years now. And I don't have to think about it. It doesn't require effort. It's just what I do. I love it. I love taking care of my body. I love the foods I get to make. Like there's nothing hard about it. And that is my wish and goal for every single one of you. Yes, definitely. Graves' disease and thyroid disease. I used to be on not massive, but a very solid dose of thyroid medication. I've come off of it completely by changing my diet. So Joyce, it makes a really big difference if you are in alignment and really congruent with what you're eating. And the other thing for hormonal imbalance is looking at your macronutrients and making sure you're having enough protein, carbs, and fats in a consistent amount each day. If you guys are interested, I do have to go because I'm late for another call, but if you guys are interested in learning more about how you can work with me, I'm running a very special offer. I have not announced this to anyone yet, but my 9-week online group coaching program. The next program will begin April 15th. We are just finishing up this week with the second cohort, and it's been such an incredible experience. If I know some of you in here are in that program, and if you want to comment, you feel welcome, but it's been an amazing experience. A lot of people having incredible results. And typically this program is $500, but if you want to join with a friend, and it's only available if you join with a friend between now and April 15th, you can join and get $200 off. So, oh, of course, there's a coupon code that you can enter, and you have to enter the friend's name of who's joining this with you. So if you have a husband or wife or significant other or sister or brother, someone who you know you want to have an accountability partner, someone to do this with, then this is the absolute best time to sign up with them. I'm going to be sending an email out, but if you go to the link I just posted in the chat box and you type in bring a friend, that will give you the coupon code. That will give you the coupon code, there it is, to sign up with a friend. So instead of it being $497 for 9 weeks, it's $297 per person as long as you have someone with you. Nancy, thanks for the love. She said she loved the 9-week program. I do have to run. I'm so sorry. I'll send an email to follow up with more details about that. And I'll also send this recording out. But I love you. Tosh says he loves you too. Have a beautiful day. And thank you all for coming. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
So, Mom.